@FangedPipsqueak Reads. And yeah, I have another review. I've been doing good this month. Yeah, I'm kind of proud of myself. I mean, 4 books, that's pretty good. So, what I finished is Michael Patrick Hicks' The Resurrectionists. It's the Salem Holly series, book 1. And it's a small novella, so I actually managed to finish it in one night, which is pretty good in my standards. I mean, I'm usually a really slow reader, so pretty damn good. And as you can see here, I really love this cover. It's made by Keelan Patrick Burke, who does, I think his design website is called Elder Lemon Signs, I think? Elder Lemon, I'm check. Just to be completely safe, so I don't fuck it up. elderlemondesign.com. Yeah, that was right. And it's like has this kind of cool graveyard thing. I probably am on a certain theme here this last couple of days of January, because this actually features a graveyard as well. You might have noticed from my Almost Ruth review that it also depicts graveyards and stuff. So yeah, I'm guessing I was in a graveyard kind of mood these last couple of days. So, what is this book about? I am just gonna read to you the blurb, just to give you guys a little bit of what's it all about. Having won his emancipation after fighting on the side of the colonies during the American Revolution, Salem Holly is a free man. Only a handful of years after the end of British rule, Holly finds himself drawn into a new war unlike anything he has ever seen. New York City is on the cusp of a new revolution as the science of medicine advances, but procuring bodies for study is still illegal. Bands of resurrectionists are stealing corpses from New York cemeteries, and women of the night are disappearing from the streets only to meet grisly ends elsewhere. After a friend's family is robbed from their graves, Holly is compelled to fight back against the wave of exhumations plaguing the Black Cemetery. Little does he know, the theft of bodies is key to far darker arts being performed by the resurrectionists. If successful, the work of these occultists could spell the end of the fledgling American experiment and the world itself. So yeah, this has Lovecraftian horror sprinkled all over it. It's a kind of like like Michael Patrick Hicks describes himself. It's a novella of historical cosmic horror. And it's definitely right on the money. I have been a fan of Michael Patrick Hicks' books ever since I read the short story Revolver. If you have not read that short story, you should do it right now. It's one of the best short stories I've ever read. It made me so angry, rightfully so, and I love the writing style. And I really gotta commend Michael for his writing. I mean, he has shown time and time again that he can write, and it's always enjoyable to read his stories. You can always find there's a certain type of voice in each of his stories. I've also read Broken Shells by him, which is like a subterranean novella, and that one is also really good. Like I said, you should definitely check out his books. It's really, really good. They're both, I think most of them are available as audiobooks, so if you're into audiobooks, definitely check that out. But, on his website, he's selling all of his books there, so it's really, really good. Now, onto the story itself. Okay, first off, I am not that much into cosmic horror. I just barely now, I think last year, I really just started getting into it. And I really love, these different kinds of elements that people bring into the cosmic horror. Especially after Lovecraft left it behind. But I also love it that you can mix it with everything. That's what I love about horror. You can mix it with everything. And it always goes well with basically everything. And you can definitely see that this goes really well with the historical part of this. Um, Especially, I, for example, didn't know that the grave robbers. I mean, I know from that time it was really common that people would dig up graves to use for the study, the study of you know of the human body, and how they would advance the medical department and everything like that, the medical sciences and everything. What I didn't know is that they were actually called resurrectionists, and it's kind of a weird name for them to give, because they're not really resurrecting anyone, except maybe the curiosity of doctors or something. I don't know. It's a interesting like choice of words to describe them, because these guys, like the resurrectionists, these grave robbers, they're awful. They're so awful. They're like scum of the earth, in my opinion. Especially there is one character in the story. It's called, and his name is Hicks, John Hicks Jr. And that guy was such a fucking asshole. I hated him. Not as much as maybe I hate Joffrey from Game of Thrones, but you know, you were reading him and you were like, man, fuck, I hope he dies, and I hope he dies horribly. And I thought it was really really funny that his that character's name was Hicks, because the author's name is Michael Patrick Hicks, and I was like, interesting that you would name like a despicable character after yourself. And I'm like, that's interesting. But then after I finished it and I read the notes from Michael, it turns out this guy was actually real. Didn't know. So it was interesting, and he said that he didn't know if they were related at all, and I hope not, because like I said, this guy was an asshole both in this book and in real life. So I really enjoyed this writing. You definitely can see, and I felt this was like fitted for like a historical story, because the descriptions were there, the writing itself felt old, if you know what I mean. Like if you read some of the older stories, it was kind of felt like I was almost reading Poe or Lovecraft. It was these kind of descriptions that really felt like that, and it helped set the mood, which is really really good. What I also really loved was the basically the I think the last act of the book. It was so fucking brutal. I mean, what happens in the book is they are these kind of resurrectionists. I hate that word. It's not good for my Icelandic mind. But these occultists, they are trying to open up a dimension from the other world where the ancient ones, or elder ones, as they're called in the story, reside. And you can definitely imagine what kind of creatures there are, but the way he described it is so nasty. And it just, especially there was like these albino spiders that came out, and that was brutal. It was gnarly. It was like skin crawling nasty. It was really 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 and it was so brutal. Like the attacks of the monsters' attacks on these people was so brutal, and it was so vivid. Like the descriptions were like really vivid, and really I wouldn't say accurate, but it's like you're kind of reading and you're like, jeez, you kind of have this look the entire time, like shit. And that's what I really love about Michael's writing style, because when it comes to brutality, when it comes to the actual gore and horror, he really delivers. It was like really 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 good. I think I'll probably go if I can find the passage there. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, it's over here. This is what happens to one character that that I hope. This is. I'm sorry that this is a spoiler, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of a taste of how Michael's writing is. Um, Long, muscular tendrils pierce the veil between worlds, hanging in the air before Hicks and the other doctors. Looking down, he saw for the first time the thick appendage gripping him, hoisting him off his feet. Tentacles seized both his arms, tearing his searching hands away from his face, just as fresh pain exploded in his mouth. He screamed, a well of blood rising from the cavity of his mouth, surging from between the gaps in his teeth, and he spat out his severed tongue. Rough, spidery limbs brushed against the inner walls of his cheeks, and still he screamed as pointed mandibles stabbed into his upper palate, boring through the roof of his mouth. The tentacle squeezed, hard enough to pop something inside Hicks' middle, breaking a trio of ribs. The sharp end of bone pierced a lung, and the air went out of him on a cry of torment. This is a small piece. But, after this, it goes even further, and just, how these monsters completely destroy these people is, like, horrifying, and it's really good, and I enjoyed so much. It was so much fun, because I really enjoy these kind of fast-paced monster movies. But at the same time, I recoil at the horror, because it's so vivid. But it was really good. The only down part of this book, this is why I can't really give it like 5 stars, even though as much as I love Michael Patrick Hicks books. It says here that this is a Salem Holly series, and it's supposed to focus on Salem Holly. But I really felt that he was kind of a second character. Like, I didn't feel that he was the main character. I felt like it was really more concentrated on these occultists instead. And I get that. I mean, you need to kind of establish the villains a little bit more to make you feel this hatred for them, to make you feel that that you want something bad to happen to them. And he really does that. And, I think describing the villains in this book, I think it was a good choice because, and giving you a brief look into Salem himself. Also, I mean, as much as I wanted him to be more in the spotlight, I can understand that, you needed to, push this further because, as I said, this is book 1. And it continues, and I think it was called, what was it called again? Born of the Deep. So that's book 2, and I definitely need to get myself a copy of that. But, so yeah, I'm hoping that in book 2, Born of the Deep, that we'll be able to see more of Salem himself. So we get to see more of his, ambitions, his, more of his past, because I really wanted to know, like, how he was, Hicks managed to, sprinkle a little bit of info about his time when he was fighting in the American Revolution. But I really wanted to know a little bit more about that. I want to know more about, his past as a slave. I think that would have been really interesting to see. You also, you get a little bit of hint, like I said, he sprinkles a little bit of that just to keep you intrigued enough. And I feel like that worked. But at the same time, I wish there had been more. I really wish there had been more. So I'm hoping that we get more of Salem, like Salem himself. Like, he is actually the main character in book 2. So yeah, I really, really like this one. But like I said, I can't bring myself to give it a 5 stars. So it's definitely a 4 stars. And if you like, cosmic horror, if you like historical stuff, and this kind of mixes well together, definitely recommend this. If you're only for, kind of gore, any kind of stuff, this is a book for you. I mean, it's really good. So you should, start your day or start your week with a little bit of a cosmic horror sprinkled with historical parts and a lot of gore. that should definitely keep you interested. And like I said, it's a short read, so you'll be able to finish it maybe within a day, like I did. So yeah, this is a fun read, and I definitely gonna get book two. So hopefully you might be able to see a review of book two later this year. So I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you enjoy the rest of January. And this is Fang Pip's Quick Reads. I'll see you next time. Bye.